Plumbing. You know you love it, yet you can't do it without the leads. So where do you actually get them from? Today we're going to rank each method from the worst that waste your money and time to the best that help you scale. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and enjoy as we go over the methods. So we might as well jump straight into it. The first method is door knocking. I heard someone suggest this once, door knocking for plumbing. And it works for something like solar because you can clearly see if someone has panels or not. But plumbing isn't really like that. You're knocking random doors, asking if they have a leak or a blocked drain. It's basically cold calling random people and hoping they have a plumbing issue at that time on that day. And these are basically just random people that haven't applied for anything, asked for any plumbing. So, they're not going to turn around and say, well, now that you mention it, our toilet hasn't been working for 2 weeks. I'm really glad that you're calling us to check. If that toilet's broken, they're gonna find a plumber. But there was a plumber that did this with like boiler fluids. He would go around houses, check if they have like an old one, and then he would knock on them and see if to upgrade. So that's like a niche scenario of that potentially working. And it is free, so technically you can do it. There's no one stopping you. But you wouldn't build your business on this or scale it. It's not a very effective method for that. So for that reason, it's going straight into F. We don't mess about. Unfortunately, for any door knocking lovers, that's just where it's gotta go. Okay, moving straight on to another classic. That's leaflets. Leaflets, you can't even need thousands of them for it to be even worth it. And the conversion rates are so low that most of the time they're just not. By the time you've paid for a couple of thousand of leaflets and paying for the distribution costs, you could have just used that money to run like a small Google Ads campaign, and that would have been more profitable and brought you in more leads than the leaflets. So a lot of people don't bother with these nowadays. The main issue with them is that they're low intent. No one asked for a leaflet to be dropped through their door. When it comes through their door, they're not really thinking about plumbing, so it just goes on the table or straight in the bin. And when something actually breaks in a few days or weeks, they've already forgotten about that leaflet anyway. So they just find a plumber's phone number from somewhere else anyway. So you can make it work in certain ways at a later stage, but you wouldn't use it as like the main marketing method to scale your business. And if you need jobs this month, you wouldn't rely on this either. So this one is kind of going into C tier. Okay, word of mouth is another one that sounds great on the surface. When you're starting out, these jobs can really feel like a blessing, and one good referral can be the difference between feast and famine for that month. Another thing that feels good about it, you're building a small network, people know you, they start to trust you. But there's a really big problem, and it's like completely unpredictable. You never know when it's coming. So one week, it's a solid referral, sweet, pays really well. Next week, you're discounting your rate by half because it's through family or friends for a really odd job that you wish you weren't even doing anyway. So you really have no control over like most aspects of it. You can't turn on when you need more work. You can't scale it. And out of 50 people that might know you as a plumber, maybe that month you'll get one or two referrals, and then the next month it's none. Again, very unpredictable. What happens to a lot of plumbers is that they build most of their business on word of mouth. They get to 3 to 5K a month, they get comfortable, and that's it. Which is great if you go from having a job, 3 to 5K, you're doing great. But that's kind of the trap of it. If you can look past that it's never going to get that much further if you're just relying on word of mouth. So they still have like no leverage in their business. They don't have any systems, no structure to actually hire anyone if you're running on word of mouth. And if they were to disappear, their business would completely disappear off the face of the earth too. Not a great method overall. But the best thing about it is that those leads do often come through as work. But in later stages, it's random. You might not want to pick up random odd jobs when growing your business. But yeah, ultimately, as you can't scale your business based on this, it's going to go fairly low down. The only thing that saves it is that those jobs can feel like a blessing at the start. So word of mouth, it's going to be a high C, but a low B. So I'm just going to put in B. Next up, you've probably seen these platforms like Checkatrade. They all work the same way. They attract homeowners to their site. Then they sell that person's details to multiple tradesmen. On the surface, it feels like the right move when you're starting out because, they have demand and you need that demand because you need leads. So it seems logical. But the problem is how it actually works. The leads you get, they're often sold to multiple people. By the time you call, the homeowner might have already chosen someone else. Those homeowners, they're also, because they're shared between multiple people and they get multiple quotes, they often have no actual commitment to you because they're speaking to like 5 or 10 people. So even when you get that lead, they might be getting a quote from somewhere else. But the platform gets paid either way, so that's the main problem. The platform's goal is to maximize revenue made per each lead on the platform. Your goal is to book the leads as jobs in your calendar to actually get paid. The platform isn't responsible for the second part, only the first. So once they sell you that lead and they sell that to as many people as possible, their profits go up, they're loving it. You still have no work. Also on these platforms, small caveat, some plumbers, they get to like 300 reviews after 5 years of working there, and then they realize they're not actually getting more leads because these platforms are not built to reward effort, if that makes sense. So it can feel really disheartening when after like 5 years or something, you realize you're not getting more leads. You have all of those reviews there. All of those reviews and time you invested into the platform, you go to cancel and you realize that they just deactivate your account and your reviews no longer show. And you don't get to like take your reviews anywhere because they're on the platform. So you've basically spent this whole time building up their platform and now you get nothing for it in return. So it's a really sucky way of them to basically say like, hey, thanks for using us for the last 5 years. We are going to give you a terrible service and then nothing in return. So I'm not saying like never use these platforms. They can be a source of work and they can fill gaps. But again, you wouldn't build your whole business on these platforms. They're pretty frustrating to use and pretty unpredictable too. So on the surface, seems like a good idea. Inexperience and deep down, leads are trash. The way it works is trash. I do actually have a full video breaking down exactly how these platforms work and why they fail tradesmen so often. So if you are currently in that situation, you can check that out. It goes into way more detail and it answers every single question. But for now, we just have to make the decision. I don't think he even deserves B tier because of all the shenanigans that happen with tradesmen on these platforms, like not getting leads, the effort not being rewarded. So I'm honestly going to put them at mid C tier. They all work the same way. I think that's where they deserve to go. All right, next up, meta ads. They can be good. This is actually the first proper option where you're generating your own leads. It's not a directory either. You're not sharing leads with 10 others. If someone fills in your form, they're essentially just yours. And you can target specific job types, specific areas, collect proper information. So once it's set up properly, it can just pretty much run in the background. It's the first method that's quite easily scalable too. But, and this is quite a big but, is it the best type of campaign to run for your business? Not really, because it's low intent. It's basically the leaflet method, but in digital form and at scale. So you're interrupting people while they're scrolling, watching videos, talking to friends. They're not actively looking for a plumber. When someone's sink is flooding, they're not thinking, hang on, let me find a plumber on Facebook, and they start scrolling. So it's not as simple as uploading a photo of a pipe and throwing 2K ads, putting your phone number in the ad, and expecting it to convert. Because if the creatives look cheap or generic, they just won't convert. You do need proper images and videos, you need persuasive ad copy, and a properly configured campaign. If it's done badly, that 2K is just going to get burnt, and then people will claim that the platform doesn't work. So if you've just started your business and are on a limited budget, this is not a method I would recommend starting out. Or if you're doing this on your own, there are better methods. This one's quite risky. But it is a good method. It's scalable. And if you do things properly, then, with the right execution, it is an A-tier method. So let's just quickly drop Facebook and Instagram ads into A tier, like we said. And this next method is actually elite. I promise you it's my favorite method and it will be yours too. It's completely free. You don't need a leaflet designer. You don't need a marketing agency. You don't need to pay someone for leads. And the types of leads it gets are very high intent, unlike Facebook ads. So that little profile that shows up on Google Maps when someone types plumber near me or something along those lines, can drive insane amounts of call volume per month. The leads from this method are not shared with 10 other tradesmen or plumbers. They're direct calls straight to your phone. And we're also not talking about 5 or 10 leads per month. We're talking about thousands of phone calls for the top ranking plumbing businesses in larger cities per month just through their Google business profile. The reason why it's so powerful is when someone searches on Google, they already need a plumber. They're not browsing Facebook or checking their post after work and seeing a leaflet. This is the place where they go. So additionally, on top of all the benefits, with these types of leads, they only call 1 or 2 businesses. If you answer the phone first and you're friendly, you're probably going to get the job because you fit their criteria. They want a plumber they can trust that can solve their problem. This isn't being handed out to 5 or 10 plumbers. So what does it actually take for you to get to the top of this? Well, you need a properly optimized Google business profile. You need to get regular reviews, and the reviews need to mention that the services that you offer. So they need to mention things like, they came round and they repaired my boiler and they were very fast and polite and I had this plumbing problem and now I don't have it. Google sees all of those reviews and those kinds of reviews are gold. The worst kind of review you can get is pretty much just like a plain 5-star. Like that doesn't really help much. But these reviews with customer sharing experience, very valuable. And here's the kicker. So in small towns, most plumbers barely touch this. And with only 20 to 30 strong reviews, you can most of the time get into the top 3. And the top 3 is all you need to be in to get a share of the majority of the calls. In bigger cities like Miami, yeah, it's a lot harder to get that same reward because you're competing with businesses that have hundreds and thousands of reviews. But that's also proportional to the level of competition in those cities, and they have populations of a few million people. So it's still doable to use the Google Business Profile in those places. You just need a smart approach and a long-term approach. But most plumbers that are in small towns of 30 to 50k people, in towns like that, this method alone can sustain a whole plumbing business. So it's a really good method. It's free, it's high intent, it helps you dominate your local market. It can take time, but it's worth it, and every method takes time, even leaflets. So this one is definitely going in S tier. Facebook groups are another really great method when you're starting out. This method is also free and it's basically word of mouth but on demand. So instead of waiting for referrals randomly, like with word of mouth, you're putting yourself in front of local people who already live in your area. This is definitely one of the best early methods, but the way you use it also matters. You need to find a local group in your town and preferably your personal profile with your friends and family and just make a humble post. Don't try and sell yourself. Don't say you're trying to get work and try and convince people to book you in. Just say you're starting out and any support would be appreciated. You're happy to offer your help to anyone and just casually drop your number at the end. Done right, you get people to engage in this post, and it can be a good way to book a couple of solid early jobs and start building out your network. Oh my days, what am I doing? Last take. Facebook groups are another really great option when you're starting out. Facebook groups are another really great option when you're starting out, and they're also free. It's basically word of mouth but on demand. So instead of waiting for referrals randomly, you're putting yourself in front of local people who already live in your area. This can be one of the best early methods, but the way you use it does matter. You want to find a local group in your town or your personal profile with your friends and family and make a humble post. Don't try and sell yourself. Don't just say you're starting out and any support would be appreciated. You're happy to offer your help and just casually drop your number at the end. Don't include things like your website. Don't include things like your business page. You're not trying to show off. You're not trying to show how professional you are. It's just a very humble post to try and encourage people to help you. And typically people do want to do that. So, if you do this right, it can be a solid way of getting those couple of early jobs booked in. And you can start building your network out this way. It's not scalable long term, no. So you wouldn't keep relying on this to actually grow your business and scale it, but it is very strong early on. So it's a decent A tier option when you're starting out. We're basically getting onto the really strong ones now. And the next strong one is your website. Websites can give you some of the best leads you can get. When someone contacts you through your website, it's usually because they've already chosen you. The reason it works is they've already looked at your services, they've seen your team, they've read your reviews. They pretty much just trust you. They're not just collecting quotes, they're explaining their full problem and expecting you to solve it when they get in touch. And that's the complete opposite of a shared lead platform where homeowners don't really know anything about you. That's what makes website leads so much more powerful for your business. And that's not even the most important part. Here is where it gets even better. Your website can rank for every single service that you offer. So drain cleaning, boiler repair, bathrooms, emergency plumbing, you can show up for all of them at the same time in your area. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Anything plumbing related that people search for that you offer, you can show up for. And right now, homeowners, when they're looking for a local business, 98% of them use their phone to find that local business. So that's Google, Bing, ChatGPT, and any other sort of search. And your website can rank for all of them at once. So if people are searching, you do want them finding you. And this is by far the best way of having that happen. And if you combine that with your Google Business Profile, your strong website will make your Google Business Profile rank even higher too, alongside the reviews that you collect, etc. And your Google Business Profile, all of the clicks it gets to your website, it drives traffic back to your website. So they strengthen each other constantly. That's why those two are really hard to beat, and that's why they're so good. Now, is it all great? No, there is a downside, and the downside is yes, it costs money. You know, it's not cheap, but it is one of the best methods. So all of the other methods, the drawback is something that actually hurts your business. Like people don't actually want to work with you, you don't get calls back. This, you're paying money, but it is a good method. The other drawback is you do need someone that knows what they're doing, and it can also take time to build momentum if you're brand new, as Google has to trust your business first. But overall, I would rather invest in something that builds my own business and works as an asset and compounds over time than something cheap like leaflets that barely work and disappear after you pay for them. Because once you've distributed those leaflets, it's like, okay, well, they're gone. Some of them are in the bin, some of them get left on the table. It's all gone. You have to do the whole process again. Assets like your Google Business Profile on your website, they don't just disappear. Every single thing that you add to it each month, 2 reviews here, 5 reviews here, it just compounds and compounds until you're the strongest in your market. So definitely strong S tier, going straight up here next to Google Business Profile. So where does that finally leave Google Ads? So if you've noticed, that's the only other type of ad campaign that we can run. And Google Ads are a great paid campaign to run because unlike Facebook, they're high intent. So people are not scrolling, they're not looking for funny videos. When someone Googles plumber in my town at 2 a.m., they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because they need it. And that's real high intent demand. So if your town gets 500 to 1,000 searches per month, which you can measure with different tools, that isn't just random traffic. People are not searching that for fun. You can pretty much estimate that that's actual people who need your services. And Google Ads lets you tap into those searches instantly. It basically supercharges your website and your Google Business Profile. So instead of showing up only twice in maps and organic search with those two, you can show up to 4 times, because you show up in all of the paid places too. And the benefit of that is those paid places, they actually show up above the organic ones, which is fair. It's Google's service. You pay Google, they take your money, they make you show up at the top. It's good for your business to get those clicks. It's obviously not good if you're not running those things. And yeah, most of the time, once you have the first two things in place, it's a simple process. You pay money to get customers and you make more money from those customers. The only downside is that you do need a proper website built for conversions. You can't just run this paid traffic to a weak homepage or a broken service page and expect people to instantly trust you and want to work with you. You will burn through your money like that. And you also do need a strong Google business profile. But once you do have those, which you should really have anyway, your Google Ads campaigns do essentially become like gasoline that you're just pouring over your business to get more and more leads. And because the website and Google business profile can take time to build up organically, to build the authority, to build the trust, this is a great way to pretty much skip all of that. Also in larger cities, they can get expensive, the leads through these methods, but that's because of the competition and demand. The plumbing businesses are basically throwing themselves at these different campaigns like wolves, and that's why the costs are so high, and that's across every industry. So again, if you're in a smaller town, you're really getting all of the benefits. But overall, very strong method. It's very high intent, easily scalable, with just one major drawback that you need the website and Google business profile in place to fully make the most of it. So it is one of those that favors more established businesses that have those assets, and unfortunately doesn't favor people starting out. And because of that dependency, I'm going to put as A tier because it's going to be amazing for some people. It's going to be pretty much inaccessible for others. So there you have it. That's the most popular plumbing methods to get leads, ranked from worst to best. Hopefully that gave you clarity on your plumbing business, whatever step you're at, whether you're just starting out or you're starting to grow your team. As you can see, the most powerful methods are essentially your website, your Google business profile, and then pouring the gasoline on them with Google Ads. If some of this still doesn't make sense and you're not sure where you're at, you can just drop a comment and I'll help you out. Thank you for watching the video, and if you'd like to support the channel, drop a like.